All right, folks, we are back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. Voiceofruralamerica.com. Thank you for being here with us. Now, at 10 o'clock, we'll have the Georgia Hour. We got several things to go over there concerning Georgia. Diane, I sent you a video, and I forgot to put it in the list this morning. So if you could get that for me, and I appreciate it before we get to RFK. Now, Pete Hegseth talking about Mark Milley yesterday. I don't know if you missed this, but I want to run it. I want to run video 3. This is the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, talking about Mark Milley and the decision to investigate, possibly demote, and remove his security clearance. Video 3.
I want to ask you about General Mark Milley. His photo, his portrait was taken down at the Pentagon. He has, I think there's currently a commission being put together to explore whether or not he should be demoted. His security clearances have been taken away. Tell me the thought process, both there at the Pentagon, at the White House, with Mark Milley.
Accountability is back, Will. It's the understanding that if you actively undermined the chain of command, as General Milley did under the previous Trump administration, we are going to review those actions administratively inside the Defense Department. Mark Milley got a pardon. That's something President Biden was in his purview to do. Just like in our purview at the Defense Department, we have the opportunity to review things he may have done inside the chain of command while President Trump was president that undermined those authorities. So security clearance in the interim is revoked. There will be a review of the rank he will retain upon retirement, and he'll have that process. But this is a demonstration that inside President Trump's Defense Department, we're going to hold not just junior levels or the highest levels possible accountable for actions, and that's what the signal this is meant to send.
Trump was commander in chief, folks, and let me tell you something. I had an encounter with a young man in the military. Several. I know this young man. He is in Japan now. He got sent to Japan, and I knew all along that the young man had no use for Joe Biden. You could just tell in his body language he wasn't on board with the Biden administration. But I have to tell you, in the conversations that I had with this young man, Biden was commander in chief. He was very cautious in what he said. Biden's commander in chief. So anyhow, now DEI, Department of Transportation. Why am I saying Department of Transportation? I got too many departments going on in one day. Pete Hegseth, Department of Defense, colorblind, and the DEI, video 13.
And I think President Trump said it perfect in his inaugural address, which is what we're reinforcing in our directive as well. DOD will be colorblind and merit-based. Colorblind as it has been and merit-based as it should be, because as you know better than anybody, DEI sends the opposite signals. It's picking winners and losers. It's pitting people against each other based on their color, their background, or their gender. The Defense Department is in the business of fighting and winning wars, the highest of possible stakes. We want the best people, regardless of backgrounds, competing for those positions, ready to fight, accountable to their senior leaders. DEI does not do that. Not only does it not do it, it undermines it. So everyone's going to be treated equally based on merit, and we're making sure across the Army and the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Space Force, that's happening. There's no hedging here, Will. We're not joking around. There's no changing of names or softly manipulating something. DEI is gone. We're ripping it out root and branch, and we're getting back to the basics with high standards. And guess what? The force is responding because that's what they want. They want to be warfighters.
Within the second week, Thursday, within the second week, NGO funding pulled for these people that are, we're financing the invasion, removing criminals from this country, protecting our children, K through 12, only boys and girls, 2 genders, no more transgenders in the military. We're not going to pay for you to transition while you're in prison. And oh, by the way, you got to go back to the prison where your biological gender. List goes on. And I am fully supporting it. Now, I understand today, here you got 4, don't forget, Tulsi Gabbard is today. And don't get you can get on YouTube, and there's several live feeds. So you can catch these in the afternoon. That's what I do. I put them on in the afternoon and catch up to them. Kash Patel, number 5, is also FBI director, is also going to be today, start at any time. I understand he is going to lay out the plan for them on how to restore trust in the FBI, for restoring trust in the FBI. He will be also today. Now, let me answer this briefly. Number 5 is Kash Patel. Christopher Wray resigned. The FBI falls under the direction of the executive branch, the president's office. So Donald Trump did have the authority to say, look, Christopher Wray, go ahead and resign or I'm going to fire you anyway. And so Christopher Wray resigned. Now, move over to number 15. I just want to put this out here so you can keep an eye on this. This is something you'll want to keep an eye on the back burner. Jerome Powell refused to cut the interest rate yesterday. Fed holds interest rates steady, defying pressure from Trump. Okay. Fed pauses interest rate cuts as inflation, Trump plans create uncertainty. Now, we have to watch this, and I'll tell you why. Because, see, there was a plan to put another interest rate cut in effect at the meeting, is it yesterday? But the Fed is claiming there's uncertainty in Trump's economic plans. So they're going to hold for right now. Remember when, what's her name, told us, Janet Yellen, that inflation was transitory? Remember transitory? And they come out with all the charts and graphs, how, things were headed in the right direction. This guy here said they're going to pause interest rate cuts. Now, one thing you have to be perfectly clear on, there is nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. We need to audit the Fed. There's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. That's where we borrow money. When you say we're 30-some trillion dollars in debt and we have debt, that's where we borrow the money, is the Federal Reserve. And nothing federal about it. So when he says, I won't resign, now they can crash an economy. They can do it. They can do it on purpose. So keep an eye on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve and the upcoming battle that will be taking place very soon over there. Just a quick reminder, number 16, Kash Patel. Let me get that up there. This is Catherine Herridge. Kash Patel broke open the 2016 election FISA abuse scandal. Don't forget that. In fact, if you're on Twitter, I recommend following her. She does amazing work, a lot of great stuff to keep up with. So let me make sure I don't have anything else on this plate. I have that. All right, you have to go back to work. February 6th, you have to go back to work. If you don't go back to work, now what you can do is you can resign, okay? You can absolutely resign if you're a federal worker. Trump signed an executive order saying no more remote working at home. You have to go back. And he said, if you want to resign, use your government email and just type in the title block or whatever it's called there, resign. Type resign in the block and send it. And if you do, we'll give you a nice severance package and you're gone. So there's several that are protesting, no, we're not going to do that, and we're not coming back to work. Trump said, if you don't do that, you're going to be fired. Let me see something here, Diane. I think, trying to figure out if this is the one I want. Give me number 28. Can you find 28 for me there? It's just a little clip out of an article. It said the last day to accept the offer is February 6th, and employees could simply send an email from their government account with the word resign. That's all you got to do. If not, well, let's see. What did Trump say? If you don't do that, you're what? Video 9.
We have informed the federal workforce, which they've looked to do for many years, that if they're working for the federal government, they must show up to the office on time and on schedule. We don't want them. We don't want them to work from home because, as everyone knows, most of the time they're not working, they're not very productive, and it's unfair to the millions of people in the United States who are in fact working hard from job sites and not from their home. As federal employees, they must meet a high standard. They're representing our government, they're representing our country. If they don't agree by February 6th to show up back to work in their office, they will be terminated, and we will therefore be downscaling our government, which is something that the last 10 presidents have tried very hard to do but failed. Most of the people we're talking about have not been going to their federal offices in many, many years, from even before COVID. But they have nevertheless been paid. Some have worked, some haven't worked, and most of the studies say that some have just gone through the motions. We may ask these people to prove that they didn't have another job during their so-called employment with the United States of America, because if they did, that would be unlawful, as you understand. A lot of people are getting paychecks, but they're actually working other jobs, so they'll have to prove that to us that they weren't. In any event, we're requiring them to show up to work or be terminated. We think a very substantial number of people will not show up to work, and therefore our government will get smaller and more efficient, and that's what we've been looking to do for many, many decades, frankly.
Get your lazy ass back to work. They're not working. They're not productive. Many have other jobs. I mean, you and I have to go to work. We have to get up in the morning and go to work. We have to do our job. If we don't do our job, we have to answer for it. Bottom line. These people are not working. These buildings are empty, and you are sending them. There was a major freak out yesterday because the sheriff, Donald Trump, wanted to freeze the bank robbers in our treasury in their tracks. He said, freeze. Right? Freeze. Right there. Don't take another step. Number 6. Trump administration rescinds order attempting to freeze federal aid and spending. The sheriff caught him stealing. We know that right at the end of Biden's administration, they did everything they could. They went through every single budget. Everywhere there was some money left hiding, they pushed it out the door for these NGOs and these people to get grants just to steal the money. And it freaked everybody out. If you think Trump rescinded this and he's going to stop, no, he's not going to. But on the federal employees, you're going to go back to work. Many of them have other jobs. Do you know how many are signing in their computer? Hold on. Let me sign in my computer. That's all I got to do is once I'm signed in the computer, it shows up. And then on Thursday, I send in a log sheet that just says in and out, and I'm good. So I'm on the computer about 3 hours a week, if that much. 2 hours a week, whatever. I own a little business in town. I work over here. I've got a side business. Trump's going to make them prove they receive no other income. And if you're not to work, if you're not back to work February 6th, if you're not back to work on that day, you will be fired. That will be your last day of work if you don't show up. Laken Riley, I want to revisit that. Yesterday, the Laken Riley Act, a Venezuelan, remember, now, a Venezuelan that was not held because of the lack of room, right? This is a criminal here illegally, was not held due to the lack of room, and he killed Laken Riley, this young lady over in Athens, Clark County at UGA in Georgia, jogging one morning. Terrible. 22 years old? Beautiful young lady. Yesterday, the Laken Riley Act was signed. We got our Georgia delegation. Here's number 20. We already talked about that's Congressman Mike Collins from the 10th District. Thank you there. Yesterday in the room, it's reported he got very emotional. Where do I have that? I had it here just a minute ago, Diane. It's understood John Fetterman got very emotional yesterday during the signing. There it is, number 10. And he got very emotional because Laken Riley's mom, John Fetterman, is overcome with emotion as Trump details Laken Riley's brutal murder by a legal migrant as the bill is signed. Can you roll? This is Laken Riley's mother yesterday at the signing of the bill, the namesake, her daughter that was murdered. Can you roll that video, Diane?
We also want to thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken. And he hasn't. He's a man of his word. We trust that he will fight for the American people. most importantly, I want to thank our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without his sacrifices, Lakin's story would have ended on that horrific day that she was taken from us. But because of him, we can continue living knowing that we will see Lakin again.
Get them out of here. Get them out of here. Clean these rat holes, these rat infested, killing our kids. Get them out of here. Thank you, Mr. President. Are we going to come back? We do have to, before we get into the Georgia hour, I'm going to try to hit it right at 10 o'clock. We have to go over RFK Jr. yesterday confirmation. We got to play several videos on that from yesterday. Diane, give us a couple commercials from our sponsors, and we'll see you right after these messages.